my money. That
guy. All right, what's happening, everybody? This is the Philly Experience Podcast. We're back with you with another week of Eagles talk, Sixers talk, ton to get to. Today we want to kick it off with the Sixers, and we want to recap their week and touch on their loss to the Brooklyn Nets most recently, but also a pretty solid week overall, beating the Washington Wizards as well, even though Bradley Beal dropped 60 points on us, and obviously wrap up the Eagles season. Pretty disappointing overall. Of course, we mentioned that week in and week out, but now it's time to really focus on coaching changes. And again, we're excited for the NFL draft. We always want to dive into it and talk about who we're going to pick. So we're going to touch on that little by little as the weeks go on, and give little nitbits, little opinions here and there. But Sixers will probably dominate the headlines for you guys until the Flyers start on January 13th. So let's get right into it, guys. The Sixers playing great basketball, still first in the Eastern Conference, even though they got beat by the Brooklyn Nets without Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, mind you. But what are your first impressions? I know Doc Rivers has probably been a big key to Embiid's success. Even Ben Simmons, who didn't have his best game against Brooklyn the other night. But overall, big picture here, what do you guys think to the first week plus maybe 2 weeks of the season?
Well, go ahead, Tanner.
No, I'm excited the way Tobias is playing. I know we're going to get a lot of heat for how we were speaking about him before this season started. We can all admit that we were a little harsh on Tobias, but it wasn't for no reason. He wasn't playing as good as we wanted him to. We paid him that money, and that last season he just wasn't playing up to par with how he should be. But really excited where how he's playing. We kind of could predict this. He was going to play a little better with Doc Rivers in town, coaching him, because his best seasons were with Doc Rivers, and he became player of the week last week. And yeah, it's exciting to see him pick up the pace because we needed him to. It can't just be Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. We got to have that team around them, and those two guys play better when there's a team around them.
I definitely can agree with that. But here's the thing, though, and here's the thing that's starting to disappoint me. Ben Simmons' lack of a jump shot, once again, it is still a major topic of concern. I'm still a little concerned after the game against the Brooklyn Nets where, there was no Kyrie Irving, there was no Kevin Durant, but yet and still they could not beat the Brooklyn Nets, who really is a powerhouse, really technically, in the Eastern Conference. You're healthy. All your starters are playing, with the exception of Steph Curry, and you guys still couldn't get the job done. You guys just didn't show up. And counting the Washington Wizards game in which it came down to the wire, you allowed Bradley Beal to score 60 points in that game. Where was the defense? Where was the effort on defense? Don't get me wrong, I'm all for the hire of Doc Rivers. I love what he's brought to the team. I love, how they're playing as a team. I love all those aspects that he has brought. However, the one thing we still struggle with at times is on offense, especially in creating offense. And one of those major things about creating offense that we've had a problem with is the fact that Ben Simmons still refuses to shoot the ball. And that's period, point blank. I mean, look, he's even now gotten to the point where he's trying to avoid contact and from going to the free throw line because everybody knows that he's a horrible free throw shooter. This is a huge issue. This is something that needs to be addressed. So what have you been doing in these past off seasons? What have you been doing? What have you been working on if you're still not confident in that area of the game? And at the end of the day, the point of the game is to shoot the ball. Shoot the ball into the basket. If you can't do that basic thing, you're not going to last that long in the NBA. I'm sorry. Tanner, you can send me all the videos you want. I don't care. I just don't care. Until he starts doing the one thing that we keep banging him to do in this city to do, this offense is going to be held back. I'm sorry. It is.
Yeah, on that note, we saw Ben Simmons knock down a three against the Orlando Magic last week, and then he comes out against the Brooklyn Nets and tries one from beyond the arc, and he completely misses the rim, and it smashes off the backboard. It was ugly, to say the least, but at least he's attempting the 3-point shot at least. So, listen, Joel Embiid still leading his team in points like you would expect, and rebounds as well.
Take me out, coach.
About 24 points a game and 11 rebounds. Ben Simmons averaging 13, 8, and 8. On the season. So kind of what you expect from him. I like to see more in the scoring category. And a lot of people have actually come out and said if James Harden was on the Sixers and Ben Simmons wasn't the other night in Brooklyn, that could have made up for the lack of scoring. You could have had James Harden score 30 to 40 points and just clear everybody out. So there's going to be games like that. I want to see Ben Simmons, pick up that scoring mark, maybe get to that 20-point mark. Obviously, it's going to take a little bit. He's going to take more shots. It's going to take the ability to shoot the jumper. But if he's going to continue to average around 13 to 14 points a game,
It's not going to get the job done.
You're right. It's not going to get it done. You're asking a
What's
lot
he
of
here
Tobias
for?
Harris, and you're asking a lot of Joel Embiid to score you that 25 to 30 points a game. Now, Tobias Harris, like Tanner said, been playing great basketball so far this season. Really improved. He just looks more comfortable, more aggressive in Doc Rivers' offense. And people are saying Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid can't play together. Maybe that's not true. You know, before Doc Rivers got hired, the past few years talking on this show about how Brett Brown maybe not the best coach for the team and trying to trade one of these guys, but overall still first in the Eastern Conference. I know recency bias, like we just got beat, so there's some questions circling around how we get better offensively, like T said. But I think if you look forward, as long as Tobias Harris can keep up this production from in the scoring department, then we'll be fine going forward. But let's flip the page and go to this bench. You know, Tyrese Maxey has been great off the bench. Where Shake Milton actually is averaging more points per game than Ben Simmons is so far this season, which is pretty surprising. I know there's been a few Shake fans out there didn't know he's going to perform this well. But from the bench standpoint, what have you guys seen? Do you think maybe we're not as deep as Brooklyn on the bench, but we still have scorers that are capable of knocking down shots?
The bench has definitely been an improvement from last season. Definitely, Tyrese Maxey has been a huge boost. At first, I was not confident in Tyrese Maxey, but man, he has definitely opened my eyes. He has surprised me. The energy that he comes off with, like he can score from anywhere on the court, and that's one of the things I like about him. And he keeps the offense moving. Not to forget about Shake Milton as well. Shake Milton has built off of a really solid season from last season. Like he's still continuing to do his thing. Like a lot of people thought that he was just this, one-hit wonder, and that teams was eventually going to figure him out. But instead, he has risen to the challenge, and he is still a huge asset coming off of that bench. One disappointment, though, I will bring up is Matisse Thybulle. I thought that he would take a step forward, especially him being that 3-and-D guy off the bench. Unfortunately, he has not. He has really disappointed in the shooting aspect. His defense is still definitely top notch, but he got to hit the gym for that shooting, man.
One player that I like so far is Dwight Howard. Now, unfortunately, he's a guy that finds a lot of fouls when he's on the floor. But I do like his play, especially. We have Joel Embiid, who is very uncertain with his health usually, and we brought Dwight Howard in knowing that, and that's a guy who when he needs to step up, he will step up. It's just unfortunate that he thinks that he runs the league sometimes, and he does get called for fouls. I believe he fouled out last night.
He did.
And that of course it hurts us when we need Joel to rest a little more. But the bench was out there more because Doc Rivers was saying to his guys, if you guys don't play as good, we got other guys on the bench who want to be out there, who are gonna score for us. Like we mentioned, Shake Milton, who I believe he started. Did he start last night?
Yeah, he was.
He was out. So that's a guy who it's not surprising. I know T said maybe he could have got figured out. It's a guy who we didn't know if it was a one-hit wonder, but going into the training camp, he was impressing the coaching staff and his teammates alike. So that's another player who I'm glad that is on this bench. But going forward before the trade deadline, I still do think that this bench is going to get mixed around.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think we're without Mike Scott right now, without Furkan Korkmaz, both due to injury, and now Seth Curry from testing positive with the virus. I think he was a huge, miss. You were missing him deeply the other night against Brooklyn. Now, I think going forward here, who knows with the schedule, obviously with Seth Curry now testing positive, how is that going to affect the Denver Nugget game coming up on Saturday afternoon? Denver is going to travel to Philadelphia after just having to play the Dallas Mavericks the other night as well. But they're going to come to Philadelphia. I don't know how it's going to impact their schedule and also going forward here. But I want to point out this. We've played a couple teams so far this season that are pretty weak overall. Charlotte Hornets, who we were able to beat pretty easily in both of those games, the Wizards twice. And this game against Brooklyn was kind of our first test, even without Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, of going on the road and being able to show people, we put our road woes behind us from last year and try to prove that, we can play well on the road. So far, it hasn't happened. We've played 3 road games. We've lost 2 of them, one to Cleveland and then one to Brooklyn the other night. Do you think going forward we'll be able to fix that? Or do you think, we're just going to need some more pieces in here to really step up the game on the road? Because personally, I think Seth Curry was, just a huge loss for us the other night. and his shooting ability, which was, we expected him to come in here and dominate from beyond the arc, which he's done. But he's averaging 30 minutes a game. Like, he's averaging starters minutes, what you expect because he is a starter. But when I relate that to Danny Green, for example, who really hasn't stepped up, and he's in the starting lineup, just not getting as many minutes. He's only averaging 8 points a game. So where are you at with the Seth Curry and Danny Green? Obviously, there's been a big comparison with them going into this season about both of them being able to knock down the three ball. One of them's performed above average. The other one's probably performed below average. Do you think as the season goes on, those guys will come back and be able to equal out? Because we know Seth Curry probably can't keep up that 59% percentage from beyond the arc going forward. I mean, it's almost impossible. So do you think that Danny Green will be able to find his rhythm as a veteran player and be able to really step up that 3-point shot as well?
I'm hoping that's what will happen, because you have Seth Curry, who played great against the Wizards the other night. I believe that was he had what, 30 points?
Yeah, close 28 points.
28. But you mentioned Danny Green not playing up to standard. Danny Green's been around the league, and so he's going to help us with locker room and the bench. And for me, he's more so of a piece that can be moved. So I'm not sure if we're going to see Danny Green the entirety of the season. I'm not sure about that. I'm not set on this. I'm not even set on the starting five for the Sixers, because I mentioned this last show. Daryl Morey, he likes to switch it up before the trade deadline. He did that for all the other teams. So I'm not set on this starting rotation.
Yeah, I think there will be some movement coming around the trade deadline time. It's like Tanner said. Daryl Morey is not keen to keeping the team together, and I think he sees some of the weaknesses that have arisen in these first couple games. And it's like Max said, we've been playing some weak opponents, and it wasn't until the other night when we played the Brooklyn Nets, and it was crazy because, like I said, there was no Kyrie Irving. I can't explain what his off day meant. It could mean I'm not even going to get into it. He's Kyrie Irving, and everybody knows how he is at this point. I'm not even going to get into it. So Kyrie Irving was out and Kevin Durant was out. So, and you couldn't beat that team. Like, I'm in a way, it disappointed me. It truly did. And I'm a little, it kind of raises my eyebrow a little bit, but then it kind of doesn't. I'm like, okay, it's still the beginning of the season. They still got to get some things together. But this was the first actual test of going up against a, championship caliber team, and they didn't rise to the occasion for some reason.
Yeah, I agree. I think overall that Brooklyn Nets squad was hot. Joe Harris was insane from beyond the arc, averaged, I think around 28 points in that game, maybe somewhere close to 30. That's all I know. 28, I think it was. Shake Milton led the way with 24 points. But I want to flip it over here to the Eagles topic and wrap up their season against the Washington football team. Again, ugly fashion, really controversial how Doug Pederson took out Jalen Hurts, put in Nate Sudfeld in the game. As Eagles fans, we want the higher pick. We're not making a big fuss about it, but a lot of people in the NFL and higher ups, general managers across the league, they saw it as a disrespectful move to the league, the integrity of the league. That's not true. Pull out Jalen Hurts. So let's just get your reaction to it as Eagles fans. What do you think that and your reaction to Jalen Hurts being pulled out of the game?
Okay, well, first and foremost, anybody that didn't see that they were intentionally trying to lose, even before the game, you're blinding yourself. Okay, it was their intention to lose first and foremost. I mean, Carson Wentz was a healthy scratch. Miles Sanders wasn't playing. Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson wasn't playing. Dallas Goedert wasn't playing. Mailata was out. Derek Barnett was out. Most of your starters were out. They were intentional on trying to lose from the very beginning. Now, let's just get that out the way. All right. Oh, by the way, for all you Giants fans out there that's still sour and mad, guess what? Get over it. All right. We lost. Don't matter. We don't care about your stinking little feelings. I just had to get that out the way, fellas, just real quick.
They made a franchise decision. They made a decision to lose and get that 6th pick. Now, some people are saying the players stopped playing. It's not. Players were still playing. It's not. What can they do if Doug Pederson takes out Nate Sudfeld? Where are they just going to stop playing?
I think that right there is where we have an issue. Oh, snap. We got a caller, y'all. We got a caller. What's going on?
How you doing?
All right. Welcome to the Philly Experience Podcast.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right. What you want to talk about?
I wanted to talk about what's Wentz's future. I mean, what do you guys believe Wentz's future may be? What does it hold? What teams he may end up on if he's not with the Eagles next season?
I think he's made it clear that he doesn't. This silence for the past couple of days after the games ended, I think he's made it clear that he does not want to be a part of the Eagles anymore. And now I still think he will find success with another team. But he's not going to be here with the Eagles, I don't think. I would like to think maybe there'd be a competition going into the offseason, but that doesn't seem realistic right now.
And it's a shame because Carson, I mean, you play the game, you play games like this, you compete. Like, that's the thing. And throughout Carson Wentz's entire career, starting from his peewee football days, he's basically been given everything. Like in his high school days, he was given a starting position. And when he was at North Dakota State, he was given a position. Even when he was drafted to Philadelphia, he knew eventually he was going to be the starter. We traded away Sam Bradford before the season even started in his rookie season, and the starting position was given to him. He's never had to work for anything. So now he gets to a point where now he's struggling and he has to work for something, and he has an issue with that. And I think internally he does have a problem with that, but I think also there is something internally going on with the team as to the reason why he really doesn't want to. He's really on the fence about being here next year. As much as I want him to compete, I just don't see a scenario where he stays here.
Right, and we got. We got Soof on the line from Lansdale. Soof, before you joined in, we were talking about Jalen Hurts being benched for Nate Sudfeld. What do you think about that? And now I'll let you go back into your question.
How do I feel about Jalen Hurts being benched for Nate Sudfeld? That was a very poor call by Doug Pederson, without question, because it'd been a different scenario had you brought in Nate. Had you said from the gate, hey, Nate Sudfeld will be the start of this game. We all would have understood that as fans. Okay, this is a game that, whether we lose or win, we'll be happy with the pick, but I guess we'll be satisfied with the win as well. But we'd be more happy with the pick, obviously. But if you're looking from a player's perspective, they don't care about a draft pick. That's just you're bringing on someone else that's gunning for a current player's position, so they could care less about a draft pick. So that is, by Doug Pederson, benching Jalen Hurts, that is a very, very poor decision, especially going into the fourth quarter. You just made it completely obvious. Hey, we're just gonna throw the game away, and we're gonna make it just completely obvious that we want to lose. And then that makes you question, where does this, how are the players going to respect Doug Pederson going forward into, the next season? Next season, I feel like as if maybe just as putrid or maybe worse than the season we just had.
I agree with everything that he just said to a T. I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I was just about to get into that because I do not respect the way that they lost when they put Nate Sudfeld in. And then here's the thing. Here's where the confusing part comes in. So Miles Sanders goes on the radio this week, and he says basically that the players basically didn't know. But then Jason Kelce comes out on Instagram and says, okay, well, we kind of knew that he was going to come in. So what's the answer? There's some clear disconnect going on, and I do not respect the fact that you blatantly put it out there that you were going to lose this game and put Nate Sudfeld in the game, regardless of the fact that those guys out there who's mostly undrafted free agents and practice squad guys who were playing their asses off are trying to put something on tape for their future careers, and you basically pulled the rug from out of them. I cannot respect that, for one.
The media is a huge enemy of the Eagles.
Yeah, to add fuel to the fire, he tried to, by going to the media and speaking with reporters, he says to them and insults our intelligence as a fan base. He insults us and says, well, no, by putting in Nate Sudfeld, I attempted to, I wanted to get the man some reps and everything. No, that's completely bullcrap because we all know what the situation is, and at least have the respect and the decency enough to tell us the truth, And it's a problem, and I'm going to be 100% honest with you. The man, after the season we won the Super Bowl, I feel as if his job should have been on the line even after the last season. Now, I understand that we still made the playoffs, but still just barely winning 9 games in the past 2 seasons, that's not good enough. That's not good enough.
Soof, I want to say this real quick. As the first caller in the Philly Experience podcast, I appreciate you joining us and coming in to talk about the Eagles. I want to ask you this before we let you go. What do you think about this upcoming draft? Now, as Eagles fans, we want to flip the script and we want to turn the page to, the draft and who we can get from it. I know it's still far down the road, but the fact that we're not in the playoffs makes us think and speculate. So obviously we have a high pick in the draft. You have great position players. You have a receiver. You have linebackers. You have guys like Devontae Smith, Michael Parsons. The list goes on and on. But what do you think is the biggest position of need at this point with this team? Because there's a lot of them.
Honestly, the biggest position we need right now, I'd say, it's quarterback, but I feel as if this is the time to draft a quarterback, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Because based off the pick we now, say if you gave us the number one pick, I'd say go in, draft Trevor Lawrence, because that is the guy. That is a guy that, every team in the NFL would want.
Right.
Wow. But if I were the GM right now, I would be drafting either Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith, because that Jalen Reagor pick was not adequate. Now, I don't know what possessed them, to choose him, but you either got to go. I would be happy with either the cornerback, Patrick Surtain, or I would be going with Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith, or possibly even Michael Parsons, because we lack at linebacker as well, tremendously. And Adam Singleton stepped up greatly this season, and major props to him. But, I'd say we should go at receiver.
Couldn't agree more, to be honest. I think Devontae Smith winning the Heisman really, stamped his top 5, top 6, top 7, wherever he goes. Really stamped his draft stock and really stamped where he deserves to go in this draft. Jamar Chase, same thing. Personally, I'd rather have Devontae Smith just because I haven't seen Jamar Chase play an overall season long of football. Exactly. But couldn't agree more. I appreciate you joining us. Call back anytime. We love it.
Most definitely, man.
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad you guys, took the time to have me on here. I really do appreciate it.
And we appreciate you calling in, man.
Have a good one, Suf.
All right, man.
You as well. You guys have a good one.
All right.
That's Sue from Lansdale there. And, guys, I agree with a lot of the things he said. Personally, I know we touched on this in past shows, but Devontae Smith is a game changer off the bat immediately. Now, Jalen Reagor, personally, I don't buy into the fact that he's going to develop into being a number one receiver. I just don't see it. I don't think he has a size. I think he's more of a gadget guy. I've said that multiple times on this show. Again, Devontae Smith, a guy who's undersized, but really has the athletic ability of anybody that really can stand out and show their talents in college football this season. And he really proved that by winning the Heisman Trophy over the other quarterbacks. Now it's the first time since the 90s, Desmond Howard specifically, that a receiver won the Heisman Trophy, and he deserved it, in my opinion, 100%. So I want Devontae Smith. I think we need to score points. Like I said, that's the main thing. I know we have holes at cornerback. I know we have holes at linebacker, but this league, if you want to win games, you need to score points. And again, I go back to the Carson Wentz thing. I don't want to see Carson Wentz traded. I don't buy into Jalen Hurts being the future here in Philadelphia. I don't buy into him being a franchise quarterback from 4 games of what I've seen. Now, is he a good leader? Can he speak well at the podium and sound like he's really super professional? Yeah, of course. Like he speaks better than Carson Wentz. Does he dress better than Carson Wentz at the podium? Sure, fine. He presents himself well. But at the end of the day, am I going to sit here after 4 or 5 games, or whatever it was, and say, he's our leader, he's our franchise guy, just based off the fact that he wants to win badly? No, I'm not. Carson Wentz wants to win badly. He might not come out and say it as definitively as Jalen Hurts does, but I just think there's too much talent still there with Wentz, and I feel like he just really didn't have an opportunity with the weapons surrounding him, with the injuries to the offensive line. I just want him back, and I think we have to give him another shot. Now, the problem with this is Doug Pederson's going to be back, and I don't think Doug Pederson's the right coach. So, again, it's a wrong marriage, and that's why I think Carson Wentz is not going to be back with this team next year, and I don't think it's the right decision. I would rather move the coach than the quarterback, but we know that, Carson Wentz and Doug Pederson at this point are like oil and water. They just don't mix. You know what I mean? So I think Jalen Hurts, you're not taking a quarterback with a 6th overall pick. I'm sorry, you're just not. And you're not trading up further than that. So you're going to get a skilled player, whether it be corner, linebacker. We talked about that. But personally, I want Wentz to stay in Philadelphia. I don't think it's going to happen because Howie and Doug are back. I want to see what your guys' perspectives are on that and see if we're on the same page.
Yeah, for me, it was if we went out and got a new GM, that's up to that new GM to decide if they want to keep Doug Pederson. Going to the draft, I think the way that this draft should go, if Smith isn't for some reason on the board still, I know I've seen somewhere he goes 3rd, maybe 3rd overall. But if he's not on there, I don't think we draft Chase. I think maybe we go to the cornerback position instead. I don't know what you guys are thinking. Do you go on Jamar Chase, or do you go get that cornerback, because Jamar obviously isn't as good as Devonta Smith? But for me, also, I wanted to ask you guys this question going back to Wentz and him leaving. Who's more likely to leave, or who are we more likely to keep? Zach Ertz or Carson Wentz?
Probably Carson Wentz, only because of the fact that he's a quarterback. Zach Ertz, I just don't see a scenario where he comes back. Even though he does have, I believe he has a year or two left on his contract, so he technically will still be under contract after this season. But with the cap, so
you're saying we cut him, and what is that going to do? Save us money?
Yeah, honestly, getting rid of trading away Zach Ertz would honestly save us money in the long run. It would be one of those cap things. And then on top of that, with the emergence of Dallas Goedert, I just don't see a scenario where Zach Ertz sticks around. Now, to go back to what you guys did, here's the thing. He brought up the fact that the Eagles should look into drafting a quarterback. And that kind of raised my eyebrow a little bit, because that's not the first time I've heard that before, from some Eagles fans. So I had to go back and let's explore this real quick. And let's look at the draft order. All right, so at number 1, all right, you have Jacksonville. All right, now the 2 main quarterbacks that's coming out of this draft, of course, would be Trevor Lawrence, and that would be the quarterback from out of Ohio State, and that would be Justin Fields. So let's look at the draft real quick. Number 1, you got Jacksonville. They need a quarterback. Automatically, they need a quarterback. So there goes one of them right there. The New York Jets, you can say they're going to keep with Sam Darnold. So okay. So maybe the next quarter. All right, number 3, Miami. Okay, they have their quarterback. Skip. Atlanta, that's interesting. Atlanta is a question mark, because should they get rid of Matt Ryan and should they cut ties with Matt Ryan, that's a team that could be looking for a quarterback. And then Cincinnati, they don't need a quarterback. And then there's us, Philadelphia Eagles. So depending on what Atlanta does, it's really interesting that, it's not crazy to think that there could be a possibility where this team is going to draft another quarterback. I don't agree with it, but the possibility is there.
That's true. I think there's 3 guys that are gone before the Eagles pick. That's the offensive tackle out of Oregon, Penny Sewell. I'm probably butchering that name, but everybody knows who he is and how talented that he is. Sat out. I don't know if it was all this season or a majority of it there in Oregon, but this guy's plug and play future left tackle for years to come. That's what all the scouts are saying. And then I think Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence are both gone. Now, whether Justin Fields goes to the Jets or the Falcons, that remains to be seen. Personally, I'm also seeing Zach Wilson even being drafted as high as 4 if the Jets take Justin Fields. Now, personally, not that I'm the only one that knows this, and you guys do as well, being Eagles fans our whole lives here too. But personally, I think knowing Howie Roseman, knowing Doug Pederson and their scheme and their regime here, there's no way that they draft a linebacker. I just don't.
No,
see
it's not going to happen.
System. And I think that's a shame, because I think people have said that Michael Parsons can be that Bobby Wagner type where you plug him in there 10 years, he's vocal. And I think that's one thing we're missing. We don't have that vocal leader of our defense. And if you plug and play Michael Parsons in there immediately, he is the talent that people are just drawn to him, almost like a Chase Utley lead by example type of player.
It's one of the things I'm looking at. It's one of the things that I'm looking at when I'm starting to look at these college prospects now, because I want to start a college series going up to the draft of potential guys that the Eagles could look at for to continue the Gridiron Films session. And man, Michael Parsons is a hell of a player, like from what I've seen so far, and it would just be a shame to not draft that talent when you need that linebacker talent on defense. Yeah. I mean, even though we don't, I mean, primarily he's scouted to be a 3-4 outside linebacker, but you can even put him at edge rusher in a 4-3. You can even put him at outside linebacker and have him blitz. And there is no way you can just pass up on that kind of talent. You just got to draft him and put him in the best place where he can succeed. I'm sorry. There's no way possible.
I don't think a defensive coordinator coming in, whoever that may be, will have enough say in drafting Michael Parsons. If a new defensive coordinator comes in here, he says, I want to scheme different than Jim Schwartz, and I value linebackers. I don't think Howie Roseman's just going to say, snap of the finger, oh, okay, we're taking Michael Parsons, for example. Even Zaven Collins, who won the Defensive Player of the Year from Tulsa, another talented linebacker. I don't know if he's going as high as Parsons, but just another example. So that really narrows it down for me to, are we going to take another receiver again this season, or are we going to take a cornerback? I think those are two options. I don't see us taking a quarterback, and I don't see us taking a linebacker. So personally, is Howie Roseman going to agree that Jalen Reagor may not be a hit as a number one receiver, and maybe they slide him over to a slot guy or keep him on the outside as a deep threat? Maybe he turns into Deshaun Jackson. Personally, I didn't see a lot of speed. I didn't see that Deshaun Jackson breakaway speed from Jalen Reagor this year. Maybe that's because they didn't use him in that kind of role, other than that catch he caught, week one. Against.
We saw more of that from Watkins this season.
It's true.
Honestly,
especially towards the end of the season. I agree. Towards the end of the season, we saw Jalen Reagor put his speed on showing when he took that ball to the house against Green Bay. Those are the punt return, and also week one he caught that deep pass from Wentz. And really, because of that injury to his thumb mid-season or early on, you really don't have too many Jalen Reagor highlights if you search up his name on YouTube. That's just a fact. So I think if you're going into this offseason, I think you either draft cornerback, I think you either draft or wide receiver. And personally, I
know it's hard?
Wide receiver because you need weapons for Wentz, especially when you get in a healthy offensive line coming back. Hopefully, Brandon Brooks has 2 major injuries. Lane Johnson, I'm not too worried about. I just feel like he tried to rush that ankle injury back too much. And he talked about, the inside of his ankle falling apart. I mean, that was just a bad situation. He rushed that, had surgery, in the preseason, or what would have been the preseason. He just tried to get back too quickly in week one. And also Jack Driscoll, who I think me and Tanner, we talked about, we're pretty high on him as a depth guy, not as a plug-and-play starter. So overall, hopefully these guys come back from injuries, and Andre Dillard especially. That's the key. Is he going to take a step forward? And then once you have that offensive line intact, you have your running back in Miles Sanders, then you have to look on the outside, and that's where your weaknesses are on offense right now. You have Greg Ward. He's been a good player. He's been a good player overall, a decent player, good player, whatever word you want to use. He hasn't been great. He's been a slot guy. But personally, if you want to take Jalen Reagor and put him in the slot and then have Devontae Smith on the outside, you never know. I think Alshon Jeffrey won't be back. I don't know if you guys agree with that. I don't think Deshaun Jackson will be back. Now, you're eating a lot of cap space there too. But, I think this all depends on if you keep Wentz, because if you keep him, then you kind of have a better idea what you want to do with your salary cap. If you let him go, then you really have to squeeze and condense your options because you don't have too many. There's guys you have to keep that you might not want to keep if you get rid of Wentz because you don't want to eat that much salary cap, and that's just how it's going to be at the end of the day.
Right. Now, the reason we're able to talk about who we're drafting 6th instead of 9th is because we lost against the Washington football team. And I would just want to go over the history of the overall 6th pick and then compare it to the overall 9th pick.
Right.
14 Hall of Famers for 6th overall, 46 Pro Bowl players, 26 All-Pro players. Then you go to 9th. It drops down 8 Hall of Famers, 38 Pro Bowlers, and 19 All-Pro players. So that 6th instead of 9th is really going to affect this team, hopefully, for the future, too, as well. We look forward to. And I was a little worried about that decision to bench Hurts in that fourth quarter in favor of Sudfeld, because one thing you're worried about, Jalen Hurts, and what he's going to think of this is, on the sideline, they had recorded of him, saying choice words about the decision to bench him. And I was worried about that. But something that could easily fix this is pulling Jalen Hurts aside. I don't know if they already did or not. And saying, hey, look, listen, we lost. Now we get this 6th overall pick to help you out on the offensive side. We get a wide receiver in that aspect. So Jalen Hurts, he's a competitor. He never wants to be pulled out for someone else. He wants this starting job. And he's confident that he will get this starting job. So if you fill his head with confidence, and you mentioned to him that we took Nate Sudfeld out because we want to see what we have in our 3rd stringer quarterback. Now, when I know Suf said that you're putting Sudfeld in and he's gunning for that starting job, but I think everyone's on the same page.
2 turnovers immediately.
When
They're
saying Nate Sudfeld didn't go in and he didn't think that he was going to be a starter next season.
Right.
All right. He's going in because he wants to show everyone what he can do with this offense. Now the fumble
that guy doesn't
wasn't
know what the hell he's doing.
His fault. That was Kelsey's bad snap, and he admitted it. Going forward, but I do think that this can help out Jalen Hurts' game even more, obviously, because you get that 6th pick and maybe Devontae Smith, and that's really going to help him out.
T, do you think Jalen Hurts is a franchise quarterback or a franchise quarterback that could take this team and lead it moving forward and maybe win playoff games and maybe a Super Bowl?
And that's still yet to be decided, to be honest with you. It's hard to get a sample size, him only playing 4.5 games. And on top of that, he was really working with a depleted roster. You got to.
That's the thing that sucks, though, because you're going to have to make that decision this offseason. You're going to have to either buy into Jalen Hurts, or you're going to have to let Carson Wentz walk, or you're going to have to keep Wentz. So,
let me reword Max's question. Can Carson Wentz take this team deep into the playoffs?
And that's still yet to be determined. Man, he's had chances.
That's the chances. Thing. It's like flipping a coin, and the problem with it is if you pick the wrong side of the coin, you're going in the toilet for what could be the next 2 years.
Exactly.
We already had to flip the coin on Foles and Wentz. Of course, you go with Wentz. I'm not saying that we made the wrong decision with that.
Yeah, better not.
Yeah, of course.
The future.
The thing is, Doug's going to be here. Doug is going to be here another year, and that's the reason why I think you just can't keep Carson Wentz, because I don't think that scheme and what Doug Pederson drew up, we have a big enough sample size of that this past season. You know what I mean? We saw, 9, 10, 11 games, whatever it was, of Carson Wentz and Doug Pederson together. Yeah, I get it. The offensive line's terrible, and the injuries, the list goes on and on. But we saw game script and how it all played out, and it just didn't work. So if you're going to keep Doug Pederson, I don't think you can keep Carson Wentz and expect to win football games, which is why I think they're going to pick Jalen Hurts, who's the more athletic quarterback at this point in his career. But again, Jalen Hurts took a lot of those plays into his own hands and really took off and ran a lot. So is he going to be able to continue to do that? Moving forward, we'll see. But we're talking 5-10 years down the road here. That's what you really want to buy into.
And that's the one thing I will give Jalen Hurts credit for, and why I'm slightly leaning towards him more than Carson Wentz is because basically Jalen Hurts took a broken team. He took a team that really isn't constructionally good, an injured, broken team, and he basically made it interesting again. All right, he didn't. What was the things that we complained about Wentz this past season? The fact that he held on to the football for too long in the pocket. His pocket awareness was horrible. Accuracy was just beyond horrible. All right. He brought those things. He brought he brought more inspiration to the offense, and he brought something new. He brought a new dynamic. He brought leadership. He did not stand in that pocket. He threw the football away. All right. Was he the most accurate quarterback? No, but he's a rookie, and he's going to develop that in time. I truly believe that. So there's hope to be hung with Jalen Hurts. It's just like you guys said, though. This is a really difficult decision to make. And do I honestly today, if you held a gun to my head and said, do you think Carson Wentz is going to be going into the 2021 season competing for the starting quarterback position for the Philadelphia Eagles? My gut instinct says yes, because I just don't think they can move on from that contract immediately. And that's a lot of money for another team to take on. And I do think they want to see if they can try to fix Carson Wentz. Now, do I think that this is the right staff to do it? Absolutely not. I have voiced my displeasure on many of occasions. I have a problem with the fact that Doug Pederson is coming back because of the fact that, you heard teams all around the league say that, this team was predictable and this team, we knew what they was doing. The scheme is simplistic. Guys weren't really getting open. Like, I'm tired of seeing teams like the New Orleans Saints have their wide receivers wide open. Now, yes, they have a wide receiver, Michael Thomas, who just seems to catch everything that comes to him. But look how open they are. Like, I want that for an offense. I want that.
Right. Yeah, I think what benefits us the most is that Jalen Hurts is a rookie. Now I don't know what they're doing coaching staff, really. I don't think any of us really know right now because there's so many guys being moved around staff-wise. But if we get a new offensive coordinator and Doug Pederson I believe he said they were going to look for an offensive coordinator.
Who knows? He's not going to want to do that. But
they are looking for an offensive coordinator.
If there's a new offensive coordinator, then that does benefit Jalen Hurts more because he's already ready to adjust. He's a rookie going into the NFL. He didn't play a full season yet. I think he's more likely to be able easily adjust rather than Carson Wentz, who we saw he couldn't adjust. With this, Doug Pederson calling the plays and everything, and he wanted to call the plays instead. So I think that factor of Jalen Hurts being a rookie and us being able to mold him more to fit the Eagles team is going to be more likely to happen.
One other benefit is that there is news going around that quarterbacks coach Press Taylor it most likely will be on outs as well. And as we know, we voiced our displeasure with the quarterback coach because when things started coming out that he was very buddy-buddy with Carson Wentz and, he was very relaxed on Carson Wentz's mechanics. And you can't do that. You can't do that with certain – matter of fact, you shouldn't do it with any players. All right? If a guy is messing up, you have to be on their tail about it, and that's pretty point blank. And honestly, the quarterback room has failed us.
No player has taken a step forward this past season.
No.
In any sense. The special teams, the D line,
Special
Fletcher
teams
Cox and Brandon Graham produced based on their talent, but overall, like no defensive player really took. I mean, look, you want to talk about Josh Sweat stepping up? Okay, fine. I mean, but he just needed playing time. I don't think he was ever a bad player. I just think he didn't get enough playing time, and we needed him this season. But let me ask you this question: you put Carson Wentz on the Indianapolis Colts this weekend, going into Buffalo against Josh Allen. Behind that offensive line with that running game and Jonathan Taylor and that great defense, do the Colts have an opportunity to upset the Buffalo Bills? I think there's a possibility there, especially if you have a full season with Frank Reich under your belt in that offensive scheme and give Wentz time to throw the football. And he's got T.Y. Hilton, he's got Michael Pittman Jr., he's got some good tight ends there, Mo Alley Cox and Jack Doyle. There's guys and the weapons there. I just feel like if you're going to let Carson Wentz go and he falls into a perfect marriage there with Frank Reich in Indianapolis with an already solidified O-line, Jonathan Taylor in the backfield, a ground and pound running game. I mean, that's a match made in heaven. And then you get Jalen Hurts, kind of one of those read option guys with no weapons here in Philadelphia. I think the way to do it was get rid of the head coach. If you're going to keep the GM and Hal Roseman, fine. But I felt they had to get rid of the head coach because he cannot coexist with Carson Wentz, and you already paid Carson Wentz the money. So you have to listen. The last thing I want him to do is keep both, right? You can't have both here because it's not going to work out. So if they're going to keep Doug, which I think they will, you have to get rid of Carson Wentz. Unfortunately,
it's ridiculous.
But it's going to eat me alive inside if he goes to the Colts and they're in the playoffs 5 years in a row. I mean, which you would expect because Philip Rivers is probably going to retire. Carson Wentz is better than Jacoby Brissett, who I think is a free agent anyway. And I just wanted to throw out that example. Now, listen, going into Buffalo and beating Josh Allen, who's probably been almost as good as Mahomes this year, probably not going to happen.
Nope.
But, it's just a bad draw. Maybe the Colts played Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh's been pretty weak recently, especially losing guys defensively. Maybe they can upset they would upset the Steelers there, which I think the Browns are going to do this weekend anyway, but we'll see.
That's bold. I do think that every coach should have been on the hot seat, if not because
definitely.
They're clearing house, except for Deuce Staley.
Yes.
I think Staley is the only coach that should stay. Doug Pederson. I can't believe we're still talking about him as a member, coaching on this team. Howie Roseman.
Was that a wise ass comment?
But we got Schwartz out, but still Doug Pederson and Howie Roseman, and these are the guys who are drafting. It's really concerning that we have the audacity to sit up here and assume that we're going to get Devontae Smith when really we could probably get Chase.
That Heisman really didn't help our chances because I thought maybe he'd be available at 6, but now the fact that he wins the Heisman, that could bump him up into the top 5. But one thing I want to point out is the fact that maybe our offensive line actually turns into a strength of our team next year with the people we have coming back. Mailata has shown improvements. If he's going to be a swing tackle and doesn't have to play every snap, that could be beneficial on the left side. And then Driscoll, who's more comfortable on the right side as well as a swing tackle. And you have Dillard and then you have Lane Johnson. That's 4 pretty solid tackles, you would think. Then you have interior coming back. Maybe you can bring back Jason Kelsey for another year and lure him out of retirement if that's the direction that he wants to go in. But you have a running back, and if you can get healthy on the offensive line, that's 2 strengths right there that were weaknesses for us this year, especially if Doug Pederson can run the football more. And maybe if we have a new,
you asking for a lot on that one.
Like Sanders said, then you have the focus on the offense and the outside, and that's why I think if you can get Devontae Smith with the healthy offensive line and maybe different play calling, then I feel like your offense, instead of being one of the worst in football, can really maybe turn into a top 12, around 12, maybe 13. And that's basically after one season. That could easily take a step forward. Now, of course, you're still destroyed on defense, especially in the secondary. But, we're taking baby steps here. That's all you can expect.
And, this team is really going to take a lot of rebuilding. Like, I'm going into next season and when we have the discussion of, what the record's going to be when next season comes around, I'm not going to be very confident going into this season. I'm just saying. All right, now, guys, real quick, I have a list of Eagles free agents that, we're going to determine right now, should they stay or should they go? This list isn't starting off very encouraging. I'm going to tell you that right now. Jason Peters, I think that's just, man, just.
That's not even a question.
That's not even, just go, get out. Just make go. Please. All right, next, Jalen Mills. Yeah, he can go. He can go too.
I say go. I say go.
I say go too. I've seen enough of him wagging his finger around for making no plays.
He did do an all right job adapting to that safety position, but he's not our answer.
Not a starter at least, but that's the thing. Like, who's going to replace him? That's kind of where we have to think about. We're
not going to have Rodney McLeod week 1, I believe.
No, that ACL injury is going to take a nice little minute to recover from. So unfortunately, I don't think he's going to be back. So in all honesty, Jalen Mills might be coming back at least for another year. I wouldn't be surprised.
I say, he goes, and then I know you're going to ask this player, maybe Rudy Ford. We're going to have him stay.
Yeah, he was going to be – he was on the list.
I wish we had Ronald Darby back, who's now all of a sudden really good with Washington.
Whoa, what? What is wrong with you?
You dumbass.
Listen,
I'm not going that far.
Season. Pro Football Focus ranked them 8th out of like 130 corners.
You really take Pro Football Focus ratings seriously?
We'll see how he goes when he has Antonio Brown. You got Godwin over there, and Mike Evans, I believe, is playing too. So we'll see how he fares.
You know what? You make a good point because he's like the 7th or 8th best player on that defense anyway. Maybe he kind of blends in with the rest of the stuff.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but you took Pro Football Focus that seriously. So for that,
if Darby's on our team right now, he's our best quarter, our second best corner behind Slay, but he's a hell of a lot better than anybody else we got.
Yeah, good point. All right, next, Nate Sudfeld. Man, Nate Sudfeld. Oh, God, please go. I can find another third-string quarterback. Just, especially after that Week 17 game.
I'm surprised he's still here after
go.
recent years.
They can't do that to his confidence. They can't cut him right after that game.
God. All right, Nikel Roby-Coleman, who has been a huge disappointment, he can go too. Just go.
See, to be honest with you, I haven't seen much of Roby Coleman this year. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
That's a bad thing. Trust me, it's a bad thing.
I'll take your word for it. You watched the film, so
trust me. Vinny Curry, he can go too.
I really don't think that he's really that great of a player.
No.
I thought he kind of like another guy who on the Super Bowl team kind of blended in with the other guys like Fletcher Cox and all. So I don't have a problem with him leaving.
I would expect him to go.
All right, now this is going to be this is an interesting one. Hassan Ridgeway. Now he came on in certain spurts during the course of the season. I feel like if you're going to keep him, he's got to be. It's got to be on a certain. Yeah, it depends on how much money I'm going to pay him, but I would definitely bring him back.
I'd rather have him on a cheap deal than Malik Jackson on like $1 billion contract. So.
I can agree with that. I can definitely agree with that. Cravion LeBlanc. Now, unfortunately, he was out for the majority of the season with an injury, but the times where he has played,
I'll bring him back. He's a good player. He showed like he's an NFL player. He's an NFL talent, so I'll keep him.
Yeah, I would keep Cravion LeBlanc.
Richard, I think he's going to go because you have. I think they're going to clear house in that position. I think it's just going to be Kayvon Wallace and Darius Slay that are going to stay.
Kayvon Wallace hasn't shown me much, but again, he didn't really get a lot of playing time until the second half.
And he's at the safety position, so go with that.
He's more a special teamer.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Richard Rodgers. With them potentially getting rid of Zach Ertz, he's going to stay. I think Richard Rodgers.
Unfortunately, he's going to stay, and by that I mean, listen, you have two, and that's the thing. This whole goes back to the coaching staff. Doug Pederson's not going to leave, and that means his scheme's not going to change whatsoever. So you need two tight ends. So getting rid of Zach Ertz, how does that help you? He's one of the better tight ends in the league when he's healthy. Now you're going to let him go, and then you're going to keep Richard Rodgers and Dallas Goedert as your two tight ends. I mean, I want a new scheme in here. I want a one tight end set because Dallas Goedert is super talented as a good blocker, and his offensive game is polished, and it's only going to get better. He's not even reaching his prime yet. So we need a different scheme in here, especially if you get rid of Zach Ertz.
Well, listen, why not keep Richard Rodgers? We're just going to sign him to a league minimum deal.
That's what I say.
And when we wanted him to play, he showed up.
Yeah,
he did show up, and he was schemed to get open. He was in those offensive sets. So I see your point there. But at the end of the day, Richard Rodgers is not somebody I want to have to rely on for production.
Of course,
yeah, of course. You definitely don't want to have to go to Richard Rodgers. Definitely. Duke Riley, man, all the linebackers suck in my opinion, except for Alex Singleton.
I don't even want Alex Singleton back. But I mean,
I feel like the way that this team will go, I think Duke Riley will stay, but more of a special teams option.
Yeah.
That's just what I'm leaning towards. And he's not going to get a lot of money, obviously.
Yeah. And he can't be a starter.
They're not going to hurt us if we're keeping them if they've been a little more productive as we expected, but I think he'll stay.
Corey Clement, he's got to go. He's got to go. I've been saying that since pretty much after the Super Bowl. Like I feel like his production's just not there anymore.
His career tanked. it was after that Super Bowl season.
Yep.
He was just a shadow of what he was.
Well, injuries hurt his career too, but he also had a lot of miles on him coming out of college anyway. But.
Right.
True. Cameron Johnson, the punter, he's gonna stay. He's gonna stay. We already discussed. We already discussed Rudy Ford. Boston Scott, he's got to stay.
Stay.
Yeah, Boston Scott's got to stay. He's gonna stay.
I agree.
Joshua Perkins. Yeah, I'm not gonna miss him.
Never heard of the guy.
Wow. Wow. Oh, now this is an obvious just go. Man, I'll answer this for you. Nate Gary, God.
Get the out!
Just go.
I'm surprised you lasted this long out of that draft class. That rookie deal's finally up after 4 years, so we'll see you later.
Oh, God, please go.
It was his play, and then what he says off the field, too, that just combined for come on, you didn't really want to be here if you're doing stuff like that.
We need defensive linemen. We need because Fletcher Cox keeps getting hurt. He was getting hurt.
Players.
We don't want but we don't want to have to keep running Fletcher Cox 100% of the snaps. We want to have that depth in there.
That means you got to have good linebackers, and Nate Gary ain't one of them.
No, he's not. And we also can't rush the passer either. So there's that issue.
Okay, so Alex Singleton, we already discussed that. Greg Ward is the last person on this list. I say
don't want Greg Ward back.
Really?
No, I don't think so.
I think he was really the only decent receiver that we had. Consistent, decent receiver, to be honest.
I don't want Greg Ward back on the team.
Really?
Are we going to win a Super Bowl with Greg Ward?
Well, are we going to win a Super Bowl with any one of these guys? Let's be honest here.
We were going to win a Super Bowl.
This all depends. This all depends on the money and the contract situation. If you're going to have Greg Ward plug and play as your slot receiver every down, no, I don't want him back. I want somebody to give somebody else an opportunity that can play better than Greg Ward, maybe score a lot more touchdowns.
Well, listen, I mean, T, you're probably going to go over the free agent options, but I think you have Greg Ward, and then you have Travis Fulgham. Rager, and then hopefully Smith. I think we're not going to go out and get a obviously big name. I saw some rumors as Juju Smith-Schuster, which he's
not leaving Pittsburgh.
That's not realistic.
No.
But again, if you go into next season, you have Greg Ward, Travis Fulgham, and Jalen Rager as your receivers. I mean, come on, you're not going to win many football games again.
I mean, we could bank on not getting Smith because that's just the way,
You need to get a receiver. I get it. I know your corners. You're not going to rebuild this overnight, but you got a talent like Smith on the board. You're not going to bring back Jeffrey and Jackson. And do you really want to go into next season with your best receiver, an unproven Jalen Rager, second-year player? I just don't want to bank on that. I want a guy I can rely on, a guy that I know that's going to be accountable and a leader, and that's DeMonte Smith, leads by example. An Alabama guy, too. You can't go wrong. It's like drafting a Kentucky basketball player.
This is why we're going to have a live, video of us watching it for our reactions because we really don't know what's going to happen, and I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't get him.
No, because you guys seen how I reacted when Jalen Hurts got drafted, and we recorded that show a day after the draft was over. So, yeah, you never know what's going to happen with this team, unfortunately, and that's just the nature of the draft.
Very true. I want to touch on these playoff games coming up this weekend before we shut everything down here. I said the Browns are my upset pick over the Pittsburgh Steelers, even though I did say on this show a few weeks ago that I thought the Steelers were a sneaky team going into the playoffs, but I just feel like they're not playing their best football. And the Browns, with that rushing attack, even though they don't have a head coach this weekend, which that's a whole different situation to bring up. But overall, what do you guys think? What's the game you're most looking forward to this weekend? With these 6 games.
Well, I'm looking forward to Sunday, the Ravens versus the Titans. I know the Ravens are favored, but I think the Titans are going to win. These teams have played each other too much lately.
Yeah, true.
It's been a lot of the Titans. I really don't think Lamar Jackson is capable to take this team to the Super Bowl. Now
that's bold.
I don't see Lamar Jackson taking this team to the Super Bowl in the next 3 years. He has yet to prove that he can even win in the playoffs. Now, if he comes over and he wins the Super Bowl this year, we can go back and whatever. We can come back to what I just said. But I think the Titans are going to beat the Ravens on Sunday.
Okay, I don't think that. I think the Ravens are going to win. So we'll have this discussion next week and see who's right.
I can tell you for a fact, though, I do think the Steelers are going to beat the Browns. So, Max, we're going to have to come back to this recording. We're going to see how we go so far. But, T, what game are you looking for?
Now, see, that was the one I was going to highlight. I was going to say, actually, I'm going to side, surprisingly, I'm going to say that the Browns are going to upset
Yeah,
the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's my upset pick.
I like
to the
when this
dog
happens.
pound.
I like when this happens because it's 2v1, and then I can come back and see. Come on, guys. I love the Browns. I love the
Right.
Browns, but you got all these guys coming back after the Browns were struggling at the end of that Steelers game. Now, albeit they do have the curse on their side because I believe Juju Smith-Schuster was making fun of the Browns.
Yes.
So he obviously hasn't learned from his TikTok dancing.
No, unfortunately.
He just needs to focus on playing.
Real quick, what's the worst game of the weekend? We got Bears Saints or Tampa Washington.
Oh, Tampa Washington's definitely got to be the worst game. But I will say this about this game. Chase Young, that wasn't the smartest thing to do, calling out Tom Brady. I don't remember any time where any player has called out Tom Brady and it has negatively affected him. You're going to pay for that, unfortunately, young buck. You ain't going to touch him.
Defense is scary, though. I'm not saying that it's going to be a Washington win, but it's going to be closer than what
Yeah, and
people
you think Brady going to keep that ball in his hands?
I think a game that I'll end up turning off will be the Bears and the Saints because the Bears, I believe, are 8-8.
Bears are terrible.
Yeah.
But if you told me before the season that the Bears would make the playoffs and the Eagles wouldn't, I would have told you you're crazy.
Yeah,
Definitely.
The Bears snuck into the playoffs, and I don't think they're going to keep it close. I think the Saints are just
It's
going to
ridiculous.
march all over them, and they're going to get ready for their next game.
Yep.
I'm excited for Wildcard Weekend. It's going to be awesome. Hope you guys tune in. We'll be back with you next week to recap it all, and also the Sixers.
All going right.
We'll see what happens with their schedule. It's going to be a crazy week with them, and the NBA needs to step in and really decide what they want to do with that. But hope everybody enjoys Wildcard Weekend here. Hopefully your teams win, even though the Birds are out of it. But just enjoy it. Have some fun. Stay safe. Everybody, let's shut it down.
All right, guys, you guys miss any of this episode, you can always go to philly-experience.simplecast.com. We are available on all major downloadable platforms. And, hey, you want to call into the show? Hit us up on the Instagram DMs. We got you. We'll bring you in. We got to, go through some protocol first because we want to make sure you ain't saying anything, outlandish. But, yeah.
Fair point, I think it's fair.
Bunch of low lifes.
You piece of Swiss cheese.